mask off moment on MSNBC, which I just love, you know, in terms of the whole Biden propaganda nature of this. Not only do they hire the ex-press secretary, now they've the first started by hiring Kamala's ex-operative, Symone Sanders. She goes on Morning Joe's MSNBC and says definitively there will not be a single Democratic debate. Let's take a listen to what she said.
Bobby Kennedy Jr., doing well. He's at 19%. Hasn't really gotten that much out there. I mean, and I'm starting to hear more and more talk about him. Are we going to actually have a challenge here?
I'm trying not to laugh, Joe. There's not going to be.
Can I stop you for a second?
Yes.
Do you know how many people said the same thing about Donald Trump in 2015 on this show?
Except
said
I will
the
note,
same exact thing.
Yes, because there was going to be a Republican primary. But I really think that the mealy-mouthed Democrats, as I like to call them, and some of my progressive friends who would like to live in a fantasy land, they need to come back to reality. And the reality is this. The sitting president of the United States of America is a Democrat that would like to run for re-election, so much so that he has declared a re-election campaign. Right. In that case, the Democratic National Committee will not facilitate a primary process. There will be no debate stage for Bobby Kennedy, Marianne Williamson, or anyone else to stand on.
So we're going to have another Bobby Kennedy in an empty chair in a debate, right?
There will be no debating.
Yeah, no debating.
The Democratic National Committee administers the debates, and they're not going to set up a primary process for debates for someone to challenge the head of the Democratic Party.
As you point out, and I have as well, I literally have the RFK book right behind me. It's not like there wasn't precedent for this in history. RFK says we need to save the Democratic Party from LBJ, Vietnam. The country is a disaster. Richard Nixon is going to win if I don't do this. Comes in, you know, obviously it was tragically his life was cut short. Who knows how that happened? That's a question for another day.
We can ask his son.
Yeah, we will ask his son.
Does not believe.
We will ask. Honestly, I think he's raising some good questions. Anyway, so we put that to the side. Then we have literally the primary process facilitated, as I understand it, Ryan, by the DNC in 1980, whenever Ted Kennedy decided to challenge Jimmy Carter. And as I've pointed out here before on the show, I'm curious what your read on it is. I think Carter was a doomed candidate no matter what. That said, I think he probably did a better job in the 1980 presidential election against Reagan because he had to challenge and defend his beliefs against Ted Kennedy by definitively winning the primary. He maintains that it made him weaker. I think he was weak no matter what going into that election, but Ted Kennedy's challenge towards him made him affirmatively have to make the case to his base and to Americans about why he should keep the standard bearer of his party. So what is your take?
I think there's two separate questions when it comes to Kennedy's influence on Carter's reelection. One is the actual primary itself, and then the second is Kennedy's role after the primary and in the general election. And I think you're right that Carter was made stronger by that challenge, by having to rise to the occasion there and make the case for himself. But then Kennedy, by kind of basically not endorsing him, and not bringing his coalition in behind him. He's very sort of endorsed him, but like...
It's complicated.
He gave
it's
that,
still very dramatic.
And he gave this like tear-jerking speech at the convention where he's like, this guy killed all the puppies, but the dream will never die.
Yes.
Like, so vote for the dream killer.
Yes.
Because one day in the future, the dream will rise again. It was like, it's brutal. Like, you couldn't watch Kennedy's acceptance speech and come away, and if you're a Kennedy supporter, anything but hating Jimmy Carter. Like, how could you kill this wonderful man and his movement? So if he had, and this is, you'll hear the exact same thing from Hillary Clinton, that it wasn't necessarily the Bernie Sanders primary, but it was the fact that instead of dropping out in March, April, May, like he did when he endorsed Biden, he didn't drop out until the convention, and very, they will say he like only lukewarmly
I think it's BS.
Endorsed. I think that part is BS. But you do, I think Bernie has internalized that. Like, and if you watch how he comported himself in 2020, as soon as he dropped out, instantly was like, I'm supporting Joe Biden. And he writes in his book that he didn't want to be blamed and didn't want to do anything that could be interpreted as undermining Biden. So if you have a primary that then results in the parties coming together, then I think it is beneficial to the party. But if you have a primary where the winner is kind of a jerk to the loser and the loser is like, well, then screw you, then it does, I think, hobble you going into the general election. That's my take on it.
I think that's fair, but there's no evidence that Bobby Kennedy or Marianne would even do that. And by the way, even if they did, I mean, you don't owe it to anyone, right? It's like to endorse them. They ultimately, to be fair, also to Kennedy, it's not like Carter was all that nice to him.
Yes,
after
exactly.
The primary. He was a huge prick.
Exactly, and egos get so deeply involved in this. Like Carter didn't do what he needed to do to pull Kennedy in. Everybody's got responsibilities and duties and obligations, and nobody met them.
Yeah, and if anyone's interested, I read Jonathan Alter's biography of Jimmy Carter. It's actually fascinating. It's called His Very Best. Highly recommend it. Yeah, not usually a figure who you would spend 800 pages on, but you learn a lot about the guy. Our only engineering president, which, is actually kind of revealing, if you ask me.
Hey guys, ready or not, 2024 is fully upon us now, and Saagar and I have been brainstorming ways that we can really up our game for this critical election.
Yeah, we rely on our premium subs to expand our coverage, to add staff, to upgrade the studio. We just want to give you the best independent coverage of this election, which is possible. So if you can help us out, become a premium subscriber today, breakingpoints.com, or the link is down here in the description video. It really means the world to us, and if you like what we're all about, this is the best possible way to keep us 100% independent, working only for you.